Hi warriors, welcome back to the channel of Learning Philosophy. You think the rich are untouchable because you're walking the wrong path. Here's the truth, the rich don't want you to rise, they want you dependent. But in the next few minutes, I'll reveal the 6 Machiavellian tactics that the rich follow to stay free. Tactics you can use to ensure you never serve them again. Starting now. In Machiavellian philosophy, power isn't claimed, it's engineered. The rich are not naturally superior, they simply follow a strategic blueprint while everyone else follows emotions. Today you will learn that blueprint. By the end of this video, you will have 6 ruthless, practical keynotes that will help you escape dependency, build personal influence, and turn the rich from masters into equals, or even subordinates. Let's begin. Most people spend their entire lives trading their hours for someone else's vision, someone else's profits, and someone else's freedom. They don't realize that every paycheck they receive is not a reward, but a reminder that their time belongs to another person, a reminder that they are building a kingdom that they will never rule. This is where the rich separate themselves from the masses. While everyone else is taught to think in terms of labor, the rich think in terms of ownership. They think in terms of control, leverage, and permanence. And until you adopt this shift, you will always serve the path they walk on. The ownership lens begins with a ruthless truth. If you do not own something that produces value without your presence, you are a replaceable tool in someone else's machinery. Your value disappears the moment you stop showing up. The rich would never accept that position because they understand that dependence is the greatest weakness a human can suffer. They design their lives so that their money, their talents, and their influence stand on their behalf, even when they are sleeping. Meanwhile, the average person believes that hard work alone will set them free. But hard work without ownership only strengthens the master you work for. When you observe the wealthy through a Machiavellian lens, something becomes clear. They are not superhuman. They simply position themselves in the game of life differently. They invest their effort into assets that outlive effort itself. They build skills that can't be outsourced. They create systems that multiply their presence. They accumulate networks where one strategic relationship can unlock more opportunity than 10 years of clocking in and out. And while you are taught to think in terms of tasks, they think in terms of outcomes, systems, and leverage. This shift is not motivational, it is mechanical. When you operate without ownership, your life becomes a series of obligations, bills that must be paid, bosses that must be obeyed, standards that you did not choose. Your survival is decided by the approval of the people above you. The rich avoid this trap through foresight. They ask themselves one question constantly: how do I convert my time into something that pays me back later? That question builds empires, and the refusal to ask it keeps most people stuck in silent servitude. But here is the Machiavellian analysis that cuts deeper. Serving the rich is not always intentional. Sometimes it happens because people feel safer following orders than creating value. Ownership requires responsibility, and responsibility demands power. Most people fear power because it places them in the arena of consequences. And yet, the wealthy run toward that arena because they understand that control is the only path to freedom. If you do not control your income, someone else will control your behavior, and once they control your behavior, they own your life. The ownership lens demands that you stop viewing your time as the product you sell. Your time is too fragile, too finite, too vulnerable. What you create with your time is what matters. Every hour you work should build a piece of you that cannot be taken away, a rare skill, a profitable craft, a knowledge base that can't be replaced, a side system that earns while you think, learn, or rest. People call this difficult, The rich call it necessary. When you begin thinking like the wealthy, you stop asking, how much will they pay me? And start asking, how much will this grow me? You stop seeking comfort and start seeking leverage. You stop celebrating busyness and start measuring progress. You stop being proud of how hard you work and start being proud of how intelligently your work multiplies. This shift transforms you from a dependent earner into a deliberate architect of your own economic strength. The rich don't win because they are rich. They win because they refuse to live life as a servant to another person's system. They fight for ownership with an obsessive clarity. And the moment you see the world through this same lens, the path of servitude begins to dissolve beneath your feet. In every hierarchy, the person who controls access controls power. This is the foundation of the gatekeeper effect. The rich understand this instinctively, while everyone else accidentally gives their access away for free. Most people live with an open-door policy, believing availability makes them helpful, likable, or respected. But Machiavellian philosophy exposes the opposite truth. The more accessible you are, the more invisible and disposable you become. Scarcity creates value, and value creates power. The rich become rare, selective, and hard to reach because distance forces people to elevate their respect. Watch how the wealthy operate. They do not respond immediately. They do not jump at every request. They do not tolerate constant interruptions. Their time is treated like a high-security fortress, and only those who bring value are granted entry. This is not arrogance. This is strategy. When you make yourself too available, you signal, without saying a word, that your time is cheap, your energy is abundant, and your presence is easy to obtain. People subconsciously rank you lower because you have not protected yourself. The gatekeeper effect begins with your willingness to defend your boundaries. Most people fail here, not because they lack strength, but because they fear rejection. They fear seeming rude. They fear disappointing others, and so they say yes out of social survival, without realizing that every yes steals a piece of their personal autonomy. The rich operate differently. Their yes is rare. Their no is standard. They don't fear disappointing others because they know that power requires friction. Distance creates mystery, and mystery creates status. If you are always reachable, you become a tool. If you are selectively reachable, you become a prize. Think of how many times people have drained your time with meaningless demands, small favors, unimportant questions, emotional venting, work that isn't yours, obligations disguised as opportunities. These are slow leaks in your power. The rich never allow these leaks. They measure every interaction by one standard. Does this increase or decrease my influence? If it decreases it, they cut it off immediately. You stay trapped in low-value cycles only because you accept interruptions as normal. They accept them as attacks on their sovereignty. But the Machiavellian core of this principle goes deeper. When you train others to treat your time as precious, you are not only changing how they see you, you are changing how they behave around you. People become more prepared before they talk to you. They become more respectful with their words. They become more strategic in their requests. They elevate their own value before approaching you. This transforms your environment. Low-level chaos disappears. High-level connections rise. Your world upgrades because you upgrade the price of your attention. The gatekeeper effect also protects your mind. Constant access fragments your focus, and fragmented focus destroys ambition. The wealthy guard their mental space with the same intensity that kings guard their thrones. They schedule isolation. They carve out inking time. They disappear when necessary. They understand that focus is a weapon, and the more people grab at your attention, the weaker you become. When you limit who can reach you, you create a mental clarity that ordinary people never experience. And this is where the transformation begins. When you stop seeing yourself as a public resource and start operating like a private institution, everything changes. People no longer expect immediate responses. They no longer assume you are available at their convenience. They approach you with caution, respect, and intention. Your boundaries become your brand. Your scarcity becomes your signal. Your time becomes an asset that others must earn the right to access. This is how the rich maintain power, not through intimidation, but through strategic distance. The gatekeeper effect is not about isolation, it is about elevation. You choose who enters your world, and in doing so, you choose the quality of your life. Life only feels unpredictable to the people who never learned how to think ahead. The poor and the powerless live move by move, reacting to whatever appears in front of them, hoping things will somehow work out. But the rich, they treat life like a chessboard, silent, calculated, and always 4 steps ahead. They don't wait for opportunities. They set traps, position their pieces, and engineer outcomes long before anyone else realizes a game is even being played. This is the cold chessboard, the mindset where emotion ends and strategy begins. Most people think they are planning because they think about tomorrow. The rich plan because they think about what tomorrow unlocks. They don't ask, what should I do next? They ask, what does doing this now allow me to do later? Every decision is a setup for a future advantage. Every move is an investment, not a reaction. When you watch a wealthy person navigate money, influence, or relationships, you will notice something unsettling. They act like they already know the end of the story. And in a way, they do. Because the one who plans furthest sees the furthest. This level of foresight demands a coldness most people never develop. You must be willing to step back from your impulses, your frustrations, your desires, and look at life from the balcony instead of the battlefield. People who operate emotionally are like pawns, predictable, easily manipulated, stuck moving one square at a time. People who operate strategically are like bishops, knights, and rooks, moving in ways others can't anticipate, creating angles that others never see. The rich win because they understand that power belongs to the person who can predict the consequences before they arrive. The cold chessboard requires you to study patterns, not moments. If your boss praises you, ask why. If someone suddenly offers help, ask what they expect later. If an opportunity appears, ask what it will cost you in the future. The masses walk into traps because they are blinded by the present. The rich avoid traps because they look beyond the bait and study the intentions behind it. They stay cold, not because they lack emotion, but because emotion clouds the long view. And anyone who loses the long view becomes a servant to someone who didn't. But the real Machiavellian force behind the cold chessboard is this: the future is always shaped by the one who prepares for it. If you have no strategy, you become part of someone else's strategy. If you cannot anticipate the next economic shift, you will end up working under the person who did. If you don't map your next move in relationships, someone stronger will define your role. Strategy is optional. It is survival. And the richer someone becomes, the more obvious this truth becomes to them. When you think 4 moves ahead, you stop living in crisis mode. Problems that terrify other people become predictable to you. You anticipate threats before they appear. You prepare counters before attacks are launched. People begin to wonder why you never seem stressed, why you always land on your feet, why opportunities seem to appear for you. They don't realize you created those openings long before the moment arrived. You become the calm one, the collected one, the dangerous one. Because nothing surprises a strategist. This is where your rise begins. The moment you adopt the cold chessboard mindset, you stop thinking like a follower and start thinking like a king. Every move you make becomes intentional. Every goal becomes a calculation. Every obstacle becomes a piece you reposition. And slowly, the world shifts in your favor, not because it is fair, but because you finally learned how to see the game as it truly is. There is a cost attached to every decision you make, but most people never see it. They go through life thinking choices are neutral, thinking small decisions don't matter, thinking emotions are harmless. Meanwhile, the rich view every action through a silent but ruthless measurement. Does this increase my power or drain it? This is the invisible power tax, the hidden cost of every emotional decision, every distraction, every obligation you accept without thinking. The masses pay this tax constantly without realizing it. The wealthy avoid it because they calculate before they act. Most people underestimate how much their emotions tax their freedom. Anger, jealousy, impulsiveness, the desire to prove a point, the fear of disappointing others, these emotional withdrawals bleed away your options. You lose opportunities because you reacted without inking. You lose leverage because you said yes when you should have said no. You lose energy because you let the wrong people into your life. None of these losses appear instantly, which is why they destroy you quietly. It is death by 1,000 small concessions. The invisible power tax works slowly, but its consequences are enormous. The rich operate differently because they understand that emotional decisions create long-term chains. A moment of weakness can lead to years of financial or personal bondage. A single emotional choice, an unnecessary purchase, a toxic relationship, a rushed agreement can trap you in obligations that drain your time, your money, your confidence, even your identity. They refuse to make decisions from a place of emotional turbulence. They wait, they calculate, they observe, they think from their future, not from their impulses. This is not heartlessness, it is strategy. The invisible power tax also reveals itself in the people you allow near your life. Every person either raises your standard or drags it down. Every relationship either strengthens your autonomy or weakens it. Most people keep low-value individuals around because it feels comfortable, familiar, or polite. But comfort has a cost. Familiarity has a cost. Politeness has a cost. The rich do not tolerate people who drain their momentum or diminish their clarity. They do not stay loyal to environments that suffocate their power. They make decisions that preserve their long-term dominance, even if the short-term emotional discomfort is high. This is where the Machiavellian perspective becomes brutally important. You must recognize that anything that distracts you, influences you, or controls your attention is taxing your power. Social media, pointless arguments, gossip, fear of judgment, trying to impress people who do not matter, all of these behaviors are invisible chains. You believe they are harmless habits, but they are slowly shaping your destiny. Every time you let someone provoke you, they win. Every time you let your emotions dictate your choices, you lose ground on the chessboard of life. The rich know this, which is why they are masters of emotional detachment. Emotional detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It means you see the cost before the consequences arrive. It means you make decisions based on outcomes, not urges. It means you refuse to let temporary feelings create permanent problems. When you operate from this mindset, you stop chasing validation. You stop reacting to noise. You stop engaging in ego battles. You stop accepting responsibilities that do not benefit your future. You begin to act like someone whose life is too valuable to waste on emotional taxation. The invisible power tax is always working, silently shaping the trajectory of your life. Every yes you give, every impulse you feed, every person you tolerate, every moment you lose to emotion, it all adds up. The rich rise because they refuse to pay this tax. They treat their power like a currency that must be protected, multiplied, and strategically invested. And once you begin treating your attention, your emotions, and your decisions with the same precision, you will feel the shift immediately. Most people look at the rich with envy, admiration, or resentment. They see money, lifestyle, status, and privilege. But they never look at the one thing that truly separates the wealthy from everyone else: their inner architecture. Riches don't begin with money. They begin with identity. And this is the purpose of the wealth mirror: to force you to confront the person you are becoming, not the person you currently are. Because every outcome in your life is a reflection of the habits, beliefs, and standards you carry within. People want the rewards of the wealthy, but they continue to think, act, and behave like the powerless. That contradiction keeps them trapped. When you stand in the wealth mirror, the first truth you face is brutal. You cannot become rich in the real world while remaining poor in your mindset. The rich think differently about time, differently about risk, differently about mistakes, differently about growth. Wealth is simply the byproduct of mental frameworks they have been building for years. Meanwhile, the average person treats growth as an optional luxury. They consume entertainment more than knowledge. They chase comfort more than progress. They imitate the actions of the wealthy without imitating their discipline, their patience, or their mental toughness. And so their results never change. The wealth mirror exposes your invisible excuses. It shows you the patterns you run from. It shows you the cycles you repeat. It shows you the habits you defend even though they sabotage you. You begin to see that you are not losing because you lack potential. You are losing because you refuse to outgrow the version of yourself that life has already outgrown. The wealthy reinvent themselves constantly. They shed old beliefs like snakes shed dead skin. They do not hold on to identities that no longer serve their mission. The average person, however, clings to who they used to be, even when that identity leads nowhere. This mirror also reveals something uncomfortable. Your environment is a reflection of your internal standard. If your circle lacks ambition, it is because you tolerate it. If your life feels stagnant, it is because you accept stagnation. If your results are mediocre, it is because your standards are mediocre. The wealthy raise their standard long before they raise their income. They demand more of themselves when no one is watching. They hold themselves accountable even when no one is clapping. They sacrifice the version of themselves that is comfortable for the version of themselves that is unstoppable. Most people never do this work, and so they remain stuck in predictable mediocrity. From a Machiavellian lens, the wealth mirror is not about self-love. It is about self-confrontation. It forces you into a state of radical honesty where you cannot hide behind excuses, feelings, or fantasies. You must look at your weaknesses with precision. You must acknowledge your flaws without emotional cushioning. You must dissect your patterns with the same coldness that a king uses to evaluate his battlefield. The wealthy do not improve themselves because it feels good. They improve themselves because they know that identity drives strategy, strategy drives execution, and execution drives outcome. If the identity is weak, everything that follows collapses. The wealth mirror also challenges your relationship with discipline. People fantasize about success but avoid the demands that success places on the mind. They want the reward without the refinement. But wealth demands a mental transformation that is often quiet, lonely, and unglamorous. It demands consistency on days when motivation disappears. It demands resilience when failure becomes painful. It demands delayed gratification when quick pleasures seem easier. The rich embrace this transformation because they understand that self-mastery is the highest form of power. Without it, money would destroy them rather than elevate them. Eventually, the wealth mirror forces you to ask one question: Who must I become to deserve the life I want? Not who must I pretend to be, not who must I talk about becoming, but who must I become in mindset, in discipline, in habits, in environment, in identity. The moment you answer this question honestly, you stop envying the rich, you stop idolizing them, you stop fearing them, you begin to be. You will the internal world that produces the external life you desire. Most people dream of freedom, but they build their lives like prisoners, locked into routines, dependencies, and obligations that quietly enslave them. They want to stop serving the rich, stop bowing to authority, stop working under someone else's strategy. But dreaming of freedom and engineering it are two different realities. The wealthy escape the system not because they are lucky, but because they follow something the masses never create for themselves, an exit blueprint, a strategic roadmap that pulls them out of dependence and positions them above the very structures they once served. The exit blueprint begins with one ruthless realization: your current life is built on decisions that were convenient, not strategic. You chose a job for survival, not leverage. You chose a routine for comfort, not growth. You chose relationships for familiarity, not elevation. And now those choices define your limitations. The wealthy understand that escape requires reconstruction. You must dismantle the foundations that keep you tied to the same outcomes. You cannot achieve a higher level of power while clinging to a lifestyle designed for survival. This is why the exit blueprint is both uncomfortable and liberating, because it demands you to break your old identity before you can break your old limitations. The first shift inside this blueprint is the change from earning to owning. The rich do not rely on active effort alone. They build systems, assets, and structures that operate without their constant presence. The masses exchange hours for income. The rich exchange strategy for income. They plant seeds that grow without supervision. They build value that compounds. They engineer leverage that multiplies their effort. And this shift does not begin with money. It begins with perspective. You stop thinking like a worker and begin thinking like a builder. You stop asking how to make money today and start asking how to make money without being physically present tomorrow. But the Machiavellian core of the exit blueprint goes deeper. Freedom requires detachment from the illusions that keep you compliant, the illusion that loyalty to a company will be rewarded, the illusion that obedience guarantees stability, the illusion that hard work alone leads to wealth. These illusions exist to keep you predictable. The wealthy escape because they see through these narratives. They do not rely on promises. They rely on positioning. They do not seek job security. They seek skill security. They do not depend on one income stream. They build several. They do not wait for permission to rise. They engineer their rise through quiet, strategic moves that accumulate over time. The exit blueprint also demands a new relationship with discomfort. People want freedom, but resist the sacrifices required to create it. They want to quit, but fear the temporary instability. They want independence, but hate the pressure of responsibility. This is why they remain trapped. The rich understand that discomfort is the bridge between dependence and dominance. They walk through it deliberately. They accept transition phases where things feel uncertain. They tolerate short-term instability because they know long-term freedom is being built beneath the surface. They think in decades, not days, and that long horizon makes them unstoppable. Another part of the blueprint is the restructuring of your environment. You cannot rise while surrounded by people committed to staying the same. You cannot evolve while living in routines that reinforce your weaknesses. You cannot escape while drowning in noise, distraction, or emotional obligations. The rich curate their environment with the same precision that kings curate their alliances. They eliminate influences that weaken them. They amplify influences that sharpen them. They build a world where their goals are supported, not suffocated. And this environment becomes a silent engine that propels them forward when others quit. Finally, the exit blueprint forces you to shift from dependency to sovereignty. You stop waiting for someone to choose you, promote you, validate you, or rescue you. You begin designing your own path with cold clarity. You build skills that the world cannot ignore. You create value that the market cannot dismiss. You position yourself so strongly that no single person or system can control your destiny. And as this transformation unfolds, something powerful happens. You stop fearing the rich. You stop serving the rich. You begin operating on the same playing field, guided by the same principles, using the same strategies that once intimidated you. This is the true essence of the exit blueprint, escaping the life you were given to build the life you were meant to claim. Today you learned the 6 Machiavellian structures used by the rich: the ownership lens, the gatekeeper effect, the cold chessboard, the invisible power tax, the narrative throne, the wealth firewall. Use them and you will stop walking behind the rich and start walking beside them, or ahead of them. Final power statement: claim your sovereignty. No one will hand it to you. In the next video, I'll expose the 7 psychological weaknesses the elite exploit to control society. Is it? And you stay controlled.